On her wedding day, I found myself on the garden's periphery, absent from the festivities. Neither invited nor included, I remained a guest of courtesy or remorse, uncertain which. She spied me at the other end of the lawn, cradling a lukewarm cup of punch and sporting the same brown shoes I've donned for every event since my brother's funeral. She approached with a rigid smile, accompanied by a few acquaintances in polished gowns and casual amusement. Upon seeing me, she commented on my jacket, stating, "Still wearing that coat, eh?" One of her companions chortled, pretending but biting. Then she added, "It's intriguing to see you haven't evolved, even though the world around you has." They all chuckled, not cruelly, not boisterously, but audibly enough. I remained silent, nodding only and keeping my hands in my pockets until the wind passed by. What they failed to comprehend, or perhaps recall, was that the coat she ridiculed was a gift from her during the year we could scarcely afford heat. She called it unsightly but warm. I retained it. We constructed our lives from the ground up, even scraping for a living. In the mornings, I labored at one job and scrubbed floors, while at night I toiled at another, changing oil. I abandoned education and sleep, and when her mother fell ill, I covered the ambulance expenses. When she desired to establish a bakery, I drained my savings. I didn't grumble. Love did not seem like a sacrifice in those days, but merely an act of faith in someone. I recall nights when our sustenance consisted only of rice and frozen corn. She would light a candle to create an illusion of a carefully curated meal. I would jest about it being a minimalist delicacy, prompting her to laugh until she cried. Perhaps she wept initially. However, I never yearned for much, just a cozy abode, a nourishing meal, and a comforting hand in the dark. Yet gradually, those simple desires proved insufficient. It wasn't an instant transformation. It began with a heavy sigh upon my arrival home or her ceasing to inquire about my day. Then her phone was consistently screened down. Her smiles became scarce, and they no longer reached her eyes. She started expressing sentiments such as being trapped or this not being the life she had envisioned. Grew more reserved, labored harder. Thought if I clung harder, the stagnation would cease. However, sometimes individuals surpass aspects of themselves they'd rather forget. I became one such aspect. The day she departed, she didn't weep. In the doorway, I presented her with a suitcase and said, "You're a good man." Yet, I crave more than just goodness. That phrase continues to echo in my mind like loose change. I allowed her to leave, not from desire, but due to an incapacity to plead. Not after all that had transpired. Some silences are denser than shrieks. Years elapsed. She received what she sought more. A man with a costly watch and a modern refrigerator. A mansion with white marble pillars. Her bakery failed, but I heard he replaced it as part of a rebranding initiative. I never remarried. Not because I was unable to, but found no purpose in constructing anew with hands already worn out. Engaged myself in unspectacular work. Tasks such as logistics, warehousing, and the backstage infrastructure. People seldom notice my presence until something goes wrong. I've become adept at blending into the background. Yet, I possess a keen eye for detail. This brings me back to the wedding incident. After she scoffed at my jacket and departed with her companions, I remained near the fountain, preoccupied with my own thoughts. Then, I spotted her fiancé, dapper in a sharp suit, his jaw chiseled from an advertisement. He approached me, drink in hand, seeming startled like he'd encountered a ghost. He halted a few feet away without uttering a word for some time. All he did was stare. Finally, barely above a murmur, he uttered my name. Not the pet name she used for me, but the one from our legal documents. In that instant, I perceived a flash of realization not from meeting me, but from reading my name on the acquisition papers 6 months prior, when my company took over his business. You see, while she was constructing a new life with a man who had more, I was silently acquiring fragments of his domain. Not out of malice, just business. His logistics chain was vulnerable and overextended. All I needed to do was wait. I didn't wish to spoil him. Instead, I aimed to be the trigger that made the ground crumble beneath his feet. He feebly attempted to smile, pretending not to have suffered a significant loss in his assets the week I terminated our contract. I chose not to reciprocate his smile. Instead, I finished off my lukewarm punch and gave a single nod. Later on, I observed as he led her aside. Her expression soured when he spoke to her softly. Her laughter vanished for the rest of the evening. She frequently looked at me from afar, as if trying to recall who I truly was. It seemed she couldn't reconcile the man in the worn brown coat with the one from her tales. They cut the cake, speeches were made. However, the merriment never fully returned to her eyes. I departed before the dancing began. No one bid me farewell. Several months later, a card arrived in my mailbox, bearing no return address. Only her handwriting was present. The message read, "Did you know?" I chose not to respond. Some secrets are best left unspoken. She sought more, and she obtained it. But at times, more isn't beneficial, it's simply louder. As for me, I retained the coat. Cleaned the previous winter, yet still warm and unsightly.